Welcome back, my spooky little beans, and happy Halloween. How are you doing? I hope you're having a wonderful day and watching some Halloween-themed movies. I reviewed the infamous Eloise Asylum in Westland, Michigan. This destination haunt started 4 years ago and is composed of two haunts. The Asylum and the Nankin Project, Nankin being the name of the township. Part of the walkthrough will be posted at the end of the review. A little note in case I forget, they touch you here. Why would I forget? Because I'm very sick. My team and I were given permission to film in one of the haunts, which we chose the Asylum instead of the Nankin Project, and received complimentary VIP tickets, but it did not affect our impression of the haunts or our review. General admission costs online around $45, but it varies depending on the day and how close you are to Halloween. The interview with Danielle Bora, I hope I'm pronouncing her last name right, the operations manager, will be posted as a separate video. She was wonderful to interview despite me being an awkward little bean. What sets them apart from their competition was one of the questions I asked the operations manager. It is a multi-million-dollar haunted attraction with Hollywood-level set design and state-of-the-art projection mapping. They are rated top 3 in the country for projection mapping. She says to be prepared to actually be scared. Be prepared for the future as well, because big changes are coming to Eloise, and I am looking forward to seeing what they are. Also want to note, they have a very well organized and beautiful website for a haunted house. That's not always a thing you're going to find, as I've noticed. We're going to discuss the midway first before we get into the haunted house. So they didn't have a stage this year like they did last year, which was disappointing. The midway was a little lackluster as a result because the Carney guy was really good as like a hype man, and it was also a really entertaining show too. And the animatronic pumpkin area where you can get a lot of pictures and videos was still very cool. They actually lit the pumpkins on the throne this year, which wasn't done last year. But the ones in the back were not moving and had no lighting or sound effects except for the one new stage in the very back. So I kind of wish I would have liked to see more done with the back, because they have another thing that are referred to as the squash stage from last year that also wasn't moving. I would like to see them moving, have music or sound effects back there, have them lit, underlit, or even backlit like they were last year. Some of the ones that were towards the front or the sides, because they weren't really utilized much this year, and it was just a little bit of lackluster for the pumpkin midway overall. And except for the very front, I want to see more done with it, because it's such a neat little thing that they have, and I want to see it improve and grow. Now we're going to get into the nitty gritty of the Asylum and the Nankin Project. We'll be discussing both of them. So the actors and staff not knowing we were allowed to film was problematic again. I've always the thing is like when we have permission to film, it's always, are you sure? Again, this kind of affected it because a lot of the characters, it wasn't as bad as it was in Rotten Manor, but enough people did break character for this, so that kind of ruined any immersion you would have. And also I have anxiety because it makes me feel like I'm the bad guy when I did nothing wrong. I am not blaming the actors, they are doing their job. I just feel like a little bit more needs to be done so they know that we're going through. But I'll discuss that more in another video. But what I discuss is the highlights of the Asylum and the Nankin Project. Set design, projection mapping, and attention to detail were beautiful here, especially I want to note in the Asylum, which my team we did agree that was the better of the two haunts that they have. You feel the vibrations through your feet from the sound effects. It is very, very loud. If you are sensitive to loud noises, I would recommend getting those special earplugs to help filter out. So you'll still hear everything, but it won't damage your hearing. And if you are sensitive to noise, that might be very handy for you to have. I know that I might bring them again next year. So the attention to the small details, like the morgue room where the fog was coming out of the vents to simulate cold air, like in the top, like I noticed a thing and I was like, I love that small little, probably to most people, not gonna notice it or like not necessary, but it just adds a lot to have the fog rolling out like cold air. It's like it really feels like you're more in a freezer. A freezer. I love that they simulate that. I don't know. I noticed that last year too, and it's just one of those things. It's like, yes, just thank you for paying attention to the small details, Eloise. Thank you. I would expect nothing less from a multi-million-dollar haunt. So let's be honest, there is that. I do expect it from this level of haunt. This is a destination haunt. This is infamous. So yeah, the choice and swell of music in the brainwashing room. That is what I'm going to refer to it as. It was beautiful. I just love, as you're approaching, you're in a whole nother room and you're approaching, you can hear the music, and when you enter, the swell of music is just there, and it adds to that like creepy effect, because it's almost like opera music, and it was beautiful. I don't want, maybe an opera, orchestra music. Anyway, it was well done. That's one of the things like I have an extremely clear memory of from the previous year, and it just, I want people to go. It's like there's a couple rooms that are just extremely well done, that are just worth it alone to go to Eloise. The moving room, the padded moving room, where the actor in the straitjacket runs into the padded walls and makes moving hard. It's just a definite delight. I actually was talking to my team about that particular room, and I'm like, I'm really looking forward to going to it, because it's just, for how to have the whole room like almost swing as the actor moves, is like, it just makes it, because he's doing a great job moving it, but also portraying his character to be creepy, and it's just, I've never seen anything done particularly like that in an asylum style haunt, and I kind of appreciate that level of detail and that level of just set design going into it. It's like that. I appreciate. I know like throughout the haunt, the strobe lighting is a little intense, so I just want to let you know and emphasize again, this is a touch haunt. They will touch you unless you have a necklace. I want to emphasize that you can get a necklace in case you do not want to be touched. And then they also have an extreme night at the end of the season as well, where they're going to kidnap you and make you eat things. The eating part is what detracts me, because I have food allergies and I really don't want to have something bad happen. Why that's, I don't know if that could ever be accommodated for. It's like, yeah, make sure you don't, try to get her to eat anything, because, food allergies could be very nasty. But yeah. Padded walls. We're not going to discuss every single room in full detail, because I do remember a lot of them, but just a couple, because I don't want to give the full thing away. I'm also discussing a lot of the rooms that some of which will be in the walkthrough, not all of them. Again, not trying to give away every little thing. The Nankin project we did not film at all, so you're gonna have to just take my word on it. The Nankin project had really cool sci-fi experimentation props and designs. The actors were a little barren, we've noticed, or missing entirely from areas. That was a little disappointing. I don't know if they were like understaffed this year, like Rotten Manor and some other haunts were. Most of the actors knew their character and did fantastic jobs in their respective rooms, especially in the asylum. I'm going to mark that the actors in the asylum did a very good job. Noise from all of the animatronics was well covered up by their sound effects and the sounds that went around the whole entire haunt. You really didn't hear those like mechanical sounds, which that's always like a nitpick of mine. I don't want to hear those sounds, and the fact that Eloise covered them up, it's just like, I love that they did, because I didn't have an issue with it, and I'm really sensitive to the animatronic sounds. It really drives me kind of nuts when you can hear those mechanical sounds like really strongly. Kind of ruins immersion. Breathe. I'm really excited about telling you guys about this, I guess. The swell of music, set design, and actors in the brainwashing room, again, really is really unmatched like anywhere else that you're gonna go. It's just so well done, and is one of the rooms that sticks out to me, like I said, when I think of Eloise as a whole. And then some of the costumes as well were really impressive. I don't really want to go into, I don't want to ruin that for anyone, so I don't want to go into too much detail, but I know one in the Nankin project was a really cool, like an actor in a very elaborate costume, kind of in between human and monster, and I was too busy looking at something else in the set design. When I turned around, his claw ended up in my mouth. So maybe that's why I'm sick, probably not, but like, anyway, it was a startling experience for sure. It was really funny, and you know what, actor did a great job rolling with it, honestly. I do have critiques for a haunt of this caliber. I still do have critiques, and I have suggestions. Critiques, the big one, there was a safety hazard towards the front of the haunt with that old school weight scale on like the right hand side being tripped on. I actually did witness some people trip on it and almost hit their faces on the wall. A friend stopped them from that happening because it's strobing so heavily. It gets dark, like it's simulating lightning. It gets really dark for a fairly lengthy period of time, few seconds, so you're not going to notice when you're walking in that it's necessarily there. So there's a huge chance you're going to trip on it because it is there. It is heavy. It is in the way of the path, and I just feel like maybe that can be moved to a different part of the room or pushed more up against the wall if possible, or removed altogether, because I just don't think tripping hazards like that are a good thing. You don't want someone hurting themselves in the haunt, especially since that can easily be avoided. So it's disorienting haunt. It's a disorienting haunt for sure in many of the areas, but it's a little too much strobe lighting. Like I said, I would like to see a little bit less strobe lighting, a little more other lighting effects, uplighting, backlighting, things like that in place of the strobe lighting. There is amazing set design, but it's intermixed with the usage of some generic and low quality animatronics, some of which I saw at several other haunts this year, actually a good few. So there is that, and some low quality props and the noises that those animatronics made. I'm not talking about the mechanical noises here. I'm talking about just the generic types of screams and stuff they did that just sounded low quality. It's like, it was like listening to a low rendered video. I saw several of the same props and animatronics, like I said, at other haunts this year, including Rotten Manor. And for a haunt that's a multi-million-dollar haunt that has such beautiful set design, I would really like to just see those removed. I don't think they add a whole lot. I think having more actors is more beneficial, especially with this caliber of haunt. They clearly have the money to do this. I'm actually really excited to see what they do next year if they remove some of these animatronics in replace for the more high budget animatronics, or just more people and just better utilization of their set, because they can go ahead and add things to the set that make it more immersive, that necessarily don't rely on animatronics or actors, things that set pieces that move, vibrate, stuff like that, that can actually make up for those scares. And then I want to make, some of those animatronics were timed very badly. This was more prevalent in the Nankin project, I want to be clear, than it was in the Asylum. That's why we thought the Asylum was superior. There were more animatronics in the Nankin project that were just timed badly, and we had to actually stop and wait to see them go off, because they had lengthy periods when they would stop between when they go off again, including the high ticket items, the huge monsters, and they were really cool to look at, but overall had very little impact. A few things towards the end didn't seem to work at all. We did come across like what looked like there was a room as we're walking through this, I don't want to give it away, we'll call it a cave, but there's this dark area that definitely something is supposed to be there and come out at you, but either it was a puppet or an animatronic, and nothing happened at all. And it was disappointing. And again, this was especially prevalent in the Nankin project. But yeah, I don't know, maybe that might have just, I don't know if it was, again, if it was a timing issue and we waited and it just doesn't go off except for maybe every minute or so, or if it was broken down, or if they just didn't put anything there when there should have been something there. It was just a missed opportunity for us, and so it led to some disappointment. I'm going to go to my suggestions now, and this is a little bit of a longer section than the critiques, but I feel like it is fairly straightforward. I do feel like more fog around the animatronics. Mostly what I'm referring to is the larger animatronics, if possible, especially since they don't move much. The larger ones don't really, for a touch haunt, I'm thinking of things like Erebus. The actors don't necessarily touch you, but the animatronics and sets are designed to do that. And so I'm thinking if you can add more effects around those animatronics, if they're not going to reach out and get either block the path or touch you, which I would prefer them to do, being that this is a touch haunt, I think that would add a lot more of a scare factor for a lot of people, instead of just feeling like you're being kind of, I don't know if rushed is the right word, but kind of more like a procession walking through. Cells, there is one set design that was really well done, but I do have a lot of critiques about it. It's like you're walking through a hall and there's cells for the patients on either side, to your right and your left, and there's TVs lining it. It's a really cool room, I want to emphasize, really cool room. But I would like to see some additions in the form of maybe making the cells move or shake a bit. You could add, like, it could almost like, I mean, you could, I don't think there's anything behind those walls So I don't think you could have like an actor doing it. Otherwise, I would suggest that as an option. Otherwise, you're going to have to use mechanical stuff to shake it, which would also be a very good option. And I would like to maybe have like screaming patients from within. If you can't have real people, again, have just noise to go off, like speakers behind there. Because again, I don't think they have back to those particular sets. But I don't know for sure. I want to be more immersed more. So like maybe less focus on us as the patients and more focus on the actors interacting and fighting with each other, like guards and patients having scenes and interacting within that room and within this particular room that I'm discussing and other rooms. Scream Machine did that really well this year, and I feel like Eloise could benefit as well from doing that. You could lock one away if the set allows for it, or it could be built to accommodate it potentially. Maybe put some arms or fingers reaching out from the little gaps in the doors, and those arms could be, I mean, if they can't be actors, they could just be little prop arms, or little animatronic arms, or puppeted arms from other people. And one of the things, like they could, I want to see like the animatronics and the puppets come out farther and do more to interrupt the pathway, like I said earlier, like they do at Erebus, where I was always on edge, and I didn't really feel like I was always on edge here at Eloise. There was large gaps where I just didn't really feel much at all. A little sense of, I guess, boredom set in between some of the rooms, and that's not really good. You don't want that. And especially like where this is prevalent with like the interrupting of the pathways, that puppet that had long arms towards the end, I believe that was in the Nankin Project. Yeah, it was in the Nankin Project. And I thought it would do something, but it was already well lit, which I don't think it should do. It should light up only when people are walking by, if it lights up at all. And then it just, arms kind of just move like this. It didn't come out at all, and that was a little bit disappointing because I wanted it to do something. I really wanted it to do something. But like I said, all to do was shake it. It was a little lackluster and disappointing for like a haunt of this caliber. Space out actors more because there were long paths where nothing would happen, and it got a little boring because it was literally just walking in a set. Maybe break up the long walk by making it more, making more obstacles like crawling or squatting in a large area and having to walk like that for a duration of time. This is like, so you're kind of stuck in a hunch position. Erebus did this beautifully. It keeps you on edge. It keeps you looking around the corners, and they have a lot going on there. Break up groups more if possible. Like I said, it felt like a procession going through because they just kept sending, there was people ahead of you and behind you, and there just like was really no gap. And that was one of the things that my group brought up too. They're like, it felt more like a procession, which was disappointing. And I will say actors because of that, didn't really have time to scare every group because groups were so clustered together. And many of the touch scares were the exact same actor to actor. And I do want to bring up the breaking up of the actors, like spacing them out more. That's more needed in the Nankin Project than is in the Asylum. The Asylum, they did a better job with spacing like them out, and so you were kind of more on edge. There were still some gaps, but not as many as there were in the Nankin Project. As far as the touch scares go, most of them are just like a light touch of your hair or shoulder. And I felt like that was more, it was too delicate, if you know what I mean. Like, it doesn't scare. If anything, it just like relaxes you, and like but not in the way that you're going to be relaxed, so you're going to be more scared in the next room. No, it was just kind of awkward, and I feel like didn't really work. However, in contrast, some of the actors incorporated how they would go about touching or grabbing a person with how it would flow to their character, which was a much better experience. One of which was actually, that we recorded, was in the brainwashing room. He did that. That was a beautiful experience overall. Some of the actors, there's a meat room where they do a good job. I don't want to go into too much detail, but some of the actors really knew like what to do as far as to make you unnerved or scared or even laugh. Honestly, let's do that for how they were going to go about, and with their duration of the touch haunt. Overall, I enjoyed my experience at Eloise, but I do have high expectations for a multi-million-dollar haunt. The set designs are beautiful, but the intensity of a touch haunt is lost when there are such gentle caresses and a procession of so many people that you miss some of the larger and more impressive animatronics go off, unless you lag behind like I did. If there are going to be a lot of people going through it once, consider making them rush through it more, like at Haunted Hoochie, where the actors force people to move through at a pretty intense rate. Animatronics can be timed out accordingly to match this intensity. They have the sets move, shake, be more immersive, make people work to get through Eloise, not just a simple walk or even like a slightly fast walk. Like, do a little bit more to immerse them. Their attention to detail in some of the rooms is nearly unmatched to any other haunts that I've been throughout Michigan and Ohio. But to use fog coming out of the morgue is just an amazing small detail that I know I just can't get over that. I know it's small for a lot of people, but I love it. That being said, I did enjoy the Asylum portion way more than the Nankin project, though the Nankin project had some really cool elements within, especially like the tubes where people were being experimented on. That was really cool, but there were really no actors in those areas, and they heavily relied on animatronics that were relatively poorly timed, probably due to the fact that they do send in a lot of people at once and then you get clustered together. Do I recommend Eloise in its current state? Hell yes, I do. I may sound harsh in this review, but that is because I want it to improve to be the best haunt it can be, considering it is such a high budget haunt. And I am looking forward to seeing what next year brings, whether or not I'm invited back. Until then, guys, have a wonderful, happy Halloween, and tonight I will be at Wired's Night Terrors reviewing them. Bye!
You do want him, don't ya? Yeah! It's over, Burley! That is not what I thought you were going to say. Am I fucked up right now?
Nope, it's tilting.
It is something, I'm not crazy. I'm like, what the hell? Forward, left. Oh, yeah. It's very good. It's a human centipede.
Wow. Ahem. Just take